we can start out with at
Okay.
least is where are you from and how the heck did you end in Orange, or not Orange County? You're in Pasadena.
I live in Pasadena.
How did you get
We just found that out.
Yeah, so where are you from and how did you end up in Pasadena right now?
So I'm from Pasadena.
Okay.
I was born in San Bernardino when my mom was going to visit some folks, or she was in a stint of life, and I was like, "Yo, I'm ready to come out."
Yeah.
so I was born in San Bernardino, but I was raised in Pasadena.
Okay.
Went to elementary, high school, just did the whole nine.
Everything
First
there.
job, everything Pasadena.
Nice.
And then I went off to community college, and that's where I met my wife. And so when we met, I was had an interesting background.
Go for it.
Growing up in Pasadena.
Yeah.
And so I was a little rough around the edges.
What does that mean?
Meaning I was a football guy with like a poet's heart.
Okay.
And so I was very like narcissistic, self-absorbing football guy. Like I'm a Greek god type of mindset. Like I'm a gladiator.
Okay.
I earned the right to walk. That type of silliness. But I've always had this kind of romantic like vision of like marrying my high school sweetheart, or in this case, my college sweetheart. So I had these like two personalities
Okay.
of the jock, but then also the guy who's like looking for love. And so those would conflict because out of fear, the jock would be louder because that was the safest one to be. So I would speak like a lot of vulgar. My character and my actions were like borderline disrespectful.
Okay.
so it's like, but then I meet my wife, and then we're like, at this time we're obviously not married, but we're like talking, and she's like, "You're actually kind of smart," and I'm like, "Yeah."
I'm not just a jock.
So she says that. She goes, "So if you're actually smart, why do you talk stupid?"
Ooh.
And I was like, "Well, that's a good question." And so from that day forward, I decided I'm only going to reflect intelligence. And so that was like the start of the birth of myself, of realizing, asking myself those questions, like, why do I do certain things? And so that relationship led to my mother-in-law dating this guy who ran an entertainment company. And so I was like, he's meeting the family, and at this time, I'm the family. I'm lasted 3-4 months. Had a Christmas. Once you have Christmas together, you kind of, you're kind of
in there.
You gotta really mess up.
Yeah.
So he's meeting the family, and this is like in April. So Misha and I, we became a couple September 2011, and then this is like April 2012.
Okay.
I think I'm back for spring break.
Okay.
Because I had went off to college, so that was another thing. I went off to college in the Midwest. And
when did you meet Misha though?
2011.
Is this freshman year of college or is this high school?
This was my sophomore year. So
your sophomore year.
College, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Her freshman year and my sophomore year.
Gotcha.
So I was on my way out, and she
see.
had just got there, and that's an interesting story. We'll probably circle back to that.
Yeah.
But so I meet him. He's meeting the family, and I'm just like, I'm just being myself.
Yeah.
So my wife's ethnicity, she's black, or she would be identified as black, but culturally she's Jamaican and Greek, or Jamaican and white. Her mom's half white, half Greek. So my wife's grown up pretty much like white, like through a white lens.
Sure.
And so I'm like real black.
You're like Pasadena black.
yeah. Not Rose Bowl, but county office.
Okay.
But I've been blessed with this ability to like come into a room and just be be who I am and not make a fool of myself, not like a buffoon, but just like I am who I am. And so he gravitated to that and was like, man, like you're pretty awesome. Like you should come and work for my DJ company. You'd be a great MC. Now, in my limited knowledge, I had no idea what he was talking about. So when he said I can be his MC, I'm thinking the guy at the club that's saying, go, yeah, all right, hey, put your hands in the air. And so I'm not thinking like a DJ company.
Sure.
Because in my family, everyone who got married, there was just someone throwing CDs down, just playing the next track. There was no mixing, there was no setup. I've gone to none of my relatives, family members were like that. So that's how I got into the entertainment DJ business in 2012.
Okay. So it's been a minute. We're in 2023.
Yeah.
So it's been 11 years.
Yeah. Is that right?
2012
Yeah.
to 23. Yeah, we're on the 11th year right now.
That's right.
That's crazy.
And it's just so happened that his company was in Irvine at the time. So I didn't know anything about Orange County. My mother-in-law and my wife at the time lived in Orange.
Okay. So they knew somewhat. It's not Irvine and Orange is a little distance away, but it's still Orange County.
Right. And that's how I got introduced to Orange County.
Gotcha.
Because my mother-in-law and my wife, they lived down here in Orange, and then I went to Mount Sac. So Pasadena and Orange, like Mount Sac's like the midway point. It's equal distance almost to the city of Orange to Pasadena from Mount Sac. And that was my introduction to Orange County. I didn't know much about it. I knew about the LA Fair that I went to for every like field trip once a year. But outside of that, I didn't know much about it. But that's how I got down here.
It's crazy that you can be so close to something but not know anything really about it.
Yeah.
You know, like Pasadena and Orange County, that it's not that far.
Right.
But you were so born and raised in Pasadena.
Right.
So it's like, what reason do I have to go
exactly
out?
Yeah,
I got everything I got right here.
We got hiking, we got the beach, we got, like we're just used to, we're in the center of a lot of things. So yeah, it wasn't so much, it was more like, I had no desire or reason. Maybe if I played like on a basketball travel team, I probably went down to OC or something, but I didn't have that lifestyle.
No, that makes sense. Okay. So you get, that's how the music started. I guess we can go back a little bit. Since Pasadena was such a big part of your life, can you kind of explain a little bit more about your upbringing? Like, is mom and dad both present? Couple of your best friends, and anything that helped kind of any events that were like, oh, this is what I really like to do. What, maybe it was football or maybe a group of friends that you always hung out with.
Yeah. Well, so let's start with mom and dad. So I had the privilege of having both parents in the home, mom and dad, and they were both, I would say, first generation married couples, first generation parents, if you will.
Okay.
Because their upbringing was special in their own way. So they brought all of their education or lack thereof. I guess it's the education.
Sure.
It's just what they learned and how they taught it was challenging at times. But now being a parent, you realize that some people just only have certain tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
And so that brought a lot of like pain as a kid. Just like a lot of the psychology and the child psychology stuff we have access to now. With like language patterns and time and how you invest in kids and nurturing them and bringing them up, like that wasn't, it was, my parents came out of the 80s, which was like survival of the fittest and very hard. But then also very loving. Like my mom and dad, they were, my dad had these pockets of like great, like it's so great to be with dad. But then he had these moments where just like, dude, if this guy wasn't around, like life would be okay. And what I mean by that was he was so hard and rigid, but in what he said made sense. How he said it is what was difficult.
Gotcha.
So
like the delivery sucked, but you got the message.
Right. So like later on, I'm just like, okay, now I get it. But then it was just like, does this guy love me or
Can you kind of?
Am I just a nuisance to him?
Yeah. Can you give an example of that? Of like what that actually sounded like to you?
Yeah. I remember one night. I have 3 brothers. I have 2 brothers and a sister.
Okay.
So I have 3 siblings. My
Went
sister
from 3 brothers to 2 brothers and a sister.
She's like
she
a
pretty
brother.
tomboy.
She's not. She's like the girliest of girls,
Okay.
but rough. Like so, she's real tough, like my father.
Okay.
So I have 3 siblings, but my sister and I, we have different mothers,
Okay.
and so she didn't live in our home.
I see.
She actually lived down the street, which was interesting.
Wow.
and so once we became, I think, like middle age, chores was always a big deal in our house. And so I remember one time my dad comes home from work and it's like 10 o'clock at night. He was a custodian for PUSD, and he comes home from night, and my brothers and I, we had schedules of chores. So we would do dishes for the week, bathroom for the week, living room for the week. And so this happened to be my week for the dishes.
Okay.
And he would always tell us, like, change, and when you're washing dishes halfway through it, change the adjective water so that the dishes are not greasy. So he'd be like, change the fucking water so that it's not. And so like that type of language, like that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
yeah. So that the dishes are not clean, but like how he said it, the message got lost because it's important that you want clean dishes. Now as a kid, it was just more like task management. Like, let me just get this done so I can get on and say I did it and checked it out. But understanding the quality wasn't there. So one night I didn't change the water, and he went and got a cup and it was greasy, and he just like threw all the dishes in the sink. And who the fuck like who the hell like wash the dishes tonight and didn't do this? And then so it's like 12 o'clock at night and
you're doing dishes.
Yeah, I'm doing dishes. And then he says, if you do it right the first time, like you would have to fucking do it again.
Yeah.
And so like that fear of like, my dad didn't beat us. Like we got whoopings, but he wasn't like come home and just take his day out on us.
Yeah, for sure.
But he had this fear that he would impart on us where it was just like I'm terrified of this guy.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
so it wasn't a loving fear. It wasn't a reverence. It was like I'm afraid to mess up because
it wasn't fear. It was being scared.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but then now I look back and I'm like, man, how many times if I would have just done things right the first time, then I wouldn't have to do it again. And it always stuck with me. Also, just the value of like when you get home from work, how you want to come home to a clean home, and if you just had a long day of work,
and you want to get
my dad was a
water.
custodian, so he's not out here like he doesn't have like the best job, but he's
working.
He's working. He's a blue collar guy. So then you come home after dealing with that, and then you come home and all you want is a refreshing cup of water or some juice or whatever. And it's greasy. You're just like, what the?
Who the fuck did this?
Right. So, and you don't get that because you're a kid that's just like, dude, you didn't even come to my game, so I don't care what you gotta say. So there was that relationship. And then likewise with my mother. My mother was, she was the joy. Like a lot of my personality comes from my mom. She... especially like my relationship with kids, like my mom modeled that. She's just like the biggest kid, but she's always just taught, take care of your business first, before you have fun, like pay your bills and then have fun. Yeah, like she kind of kept those like very like I'll call them like big rock financial advice and life advice. Love others, love people. Give, serve, do the best you can. If you can do something to help someone, do it. But then the lines kind of got blurred as we getting older, and I'm just like, wait, hold on. So I developed this habit of I pay my bills, so I can do whatever I want with this. So the idea of like financial literacy, investing, that wasn't quite there. We knew how to save. We knew how to buy things on a discount. But so that was kind of like my life was It was my mom. She was tough too. Like my mom she was pretty badass, man. Like you couldn't. She allowed all of her boys to play football, and she's the one on the sideline saying "kill him."
Yeah.
My dad, for whatever, he couldn't make a lot of the games.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't work out that way, and so that brought a lot of pain.
Yeah.
But my mom was always there, and she was always supportive of whatever we did. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like this balance of like super tenderness, like extreme tenderness to like extreme rigidness.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I look back, I'm starting to see like, okay, that like, oh, dad, like we did have fun with dad, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, my mom was actually an asshole sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, but I used to just kind of polarize them and be like, all right, if I want,
Dad was hard and mom was fun.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I didn't value it then. So
Yeah.
so that was growing up. And,
Okay.
and I was always an athlete.
Yeah.
Since age 6, and so yeah, that's kind of like how my parent household was.
Nice. Okay. There's a few. Okay. There's a few things that I want to chat in there. I'm gonna move this a little closer so we can hear you.
Yo,
There we go.
can I just drop a freestyle real
Yeah.
quick?
Hey, go for it. Go for it.
You wouldn't want to hear.
So the couple things I took away is I think it's really good that you've been able to see both sides of your parents, even in the times when you were going through it. You had the horse blinders on of like mom is fun and dad is hard.
Yeah.
But I think it's refreshing to hear that you can now see of like, okay, we did have fun with dad, and sure, I got the message of what he was saying, but his execution or how he said it was terrible. You know, like, the few years that I've known you now, I can definitely see more of the mom side of bubbly, fun, charismatic. And I not saying I don't see you being strict, but I see you definitely more reflecting more of your mom's character than dad's. But do you feel like how you have seen and now see your dad, how has that affected how you're raising your girls?
Yeah. Well, my dad's a softie now.
Okay. Because he got the grandchildren and their girls.
Well, he's got one girl. One's a boy.
Oh, shit.
One's a boy.
Oh, my bad.
I was going to correct you earlier, but I was just like, you know what? I'll slip it in.
I don't know why
somehow.
I thought you had 2 girls. The first one's a girl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're think about that one. 2 brothers, 3 brothers. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
That dad brain.
All right.
Yeah, no. So a lot of times, before my son was born, I would often reflect and say my girls, meaning like my wife and my daughter.
Yep.
So that's probably a lot of the
Maybe
messages.
that's why.
So and I still kind of do that, like my girls and I'm like, oh yeah, and my son.
Yeah.
And so I kind of forget. So but yeah, that was huge. That was a huge breaking point for me, like growing up and realizing now that I am a father and a husband, and I am more bubbly, and part of that being bubbly was almost like a cultural expectancy. Like I'm expected to be the life of the party, so you got to play that role. Otherwise, people start asking you questions.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
what's wrong with you?
And it's just like now I'm good, but now I've kind of been able to be more. My dad, like I said, my dad gave me so many gems. It was just like delivery. I didn't receive it then because it was just so hard.
Yeah.
But he used to always say like, don't tell everybody your business, like. And I didn't. A lot of who I became from like teenager to adult was trying to do the opposite of what my dad. I didn't respect. His lens and his messaging or his wisdom. So I was like, I'm gonna just do anything that you say that can't be right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do the opposite of that. So
Okay.
I was a lot more expressive. I was a lot more open. I was a lot more trusting. Because I was like, I don't want what you have. I didn't respect his life. But then as I got older, I was just like, okay, Dad had some gems there that I completely missed out.
Is your dad still around?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Thankfully.
You said like used to. You were using a lot of past tense, and I was like,
yeah.
Is he still here? Okay.
So
how's your relationship now with your dad?
it's like distantly close. Like,
Yeah.
like we have longer conversations, but it's kind of like we don't know each other, but we understand each other. You know, like yeah, that's kind of how I would describe it. Like, we don't really know each other, but we can understand each other. There's definitely a respect and a reverence for him now. And he's like I said, he's a lot different. I think he's done some work on himself.
Good.
Either through just self-reflecting,
Sure,
and recognizing he has a new family now, and and him and his new wife are great.
Hold on 1 second. It's stopped. I think it stopped recording.
This is my chance to drop my bars.
Because of lack of space. All right, so we're still recording. It just said. Sorry, I have it's called simultaneous recording, but basically it records the same scene on 2 SD cards. One of them ran out and it stopped showing. So I was like, is it still recording? But it is, because it's recording on the other one. So we're still good.
That's pretty badass.
Safety. But okay. Well, that's good that your dad has done, well, at least it seems like he's done some kind of self-reflection and whatnot.
I think ages does that to you too.
You got more time to think about it. Kids are out of the house. You have time to actually think.
Right. So like mindset is a crazy topic. Not a crazy topic, but it's a trendy topic.
Okay.
It's like your mindset. Like when I was a kid, my mindset was like, there's no way that this guy can love me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that mindset made me focus on things that were not love versus things that was love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the chastisement, and vice versa with my mom. Like my mindset was like, oh, she completely loves me. So the red flags that my mom had, I was just like,
they're not there.
Yeah. My mom's an angel. What are you talking about?
Yeah. No, I could see that. Mindset, the idea of mindset for me kind of clicked in college. Mm-hmm. And so I think college is when I started realizing more about how I guess I have a lot of similarities with your relationship or your mindset with your mom as with my dad. Is like my dad was a lot of fun, but he can be and absolutely is a hard ass. You know what I mean? Or I think it was in college and even in the even past 5 years or so where I realized who I thought was my superhero. I'm like, you got some shit to work on.
Right.
You know, and it's and it's okay. And I think it's good to realize we're all human. No one's perfect. I got my shit I got to work on.
Right.
Everyone's got stuff to work on. So I think I can see a lot of similarities of your relationship with your mom and me and my dad. Cause I'm my mindset definitely changed when I was maybe my dad he's great and I love him to death. And I to me, he's a great father.
Right.
But I also do see the human side of him of you still got some stuff you got to work on,
Right.
And if you choose to work on it, that's on you. You may choose not to work on it.
Right.
And you're still, that, man, it's crazy.
That was a really tough thing for me, I think, at age, I want to say between 25 and 30, 31. I'm 33 now. In a couple weeks, I'll be 33.
Nice. Happy early birthday.
I don't know why I did that. I had to receive that.
Oh my God.
But that was so hard. And then not knowing how to process that.
Yeah.
My hero, who I thought was imperfect, did everything right. I'm seeing she's got some issues.
Yeah.
And my father, who I just neglected to receive from, I realized man, there's so much. So I'm faith based, and so there's a scripture that talks about how God will redeem what was lost, and restore. And so like relief versus restoration is like a little bit different. And a lot of times I was looking for relief. Like this hurts, I want relief. But like restoration is repairing. There's this verse that he talks about. There's this like haughty king who's sick and he has to dump himself in this like undesirable lake, if you will, like 7 times. And he's just like, nah, that's beneath me. Like, how about I go over there?
Yeah.
So then he actually does it, and then he has leprosy. So in those times, leprosy was like, hey, you're done. It was the HIV of the 80s, or of the
a lot
HIV
worse
of that
than
time.
HIV.
Right, and or it was COVID before COVID.
Yeah,
like you didn't want to have it or know anyone with it. But then the verse is that his skin was restored like that of a baby, and that really touched me because what I have with my dad now is a restoration. It's not just a like. My dad's he's never apologized for how he raised it. In his mind was like, you know what, I did the best fucking job in the world. Like, and then I look at that, I'm like, man, I had the privilege of seeing my dad every day. I didn't want to see him, but I got the privilege of seeing. I know who he is. I know his likeness. I know stories about him. So that restoration part is what we have now, where it's almost like new. Like it was this like, I don't want anything to do with you, and then like you're amazing. Now it's just like, hey, wait, you got some issues, and hey, and you're amazing. And so like that restoration and then maturation as well. It's like just a young man developing and then being a father now, being a husband.
Yeah.
You just okay, all right, I'm starting to see what's going on here.
Yeah, and I think like restoration. What was the other one? You said restoration and the difference between restoration and
relief.
Relief. I can see where you're going as far as like that difference. I feel like restoration is also super hard to get because at least between people, or like there's different levels. Because I can see like, okay, I can see that there can be a restoration of your own personal mindset of your father. And then there can be another level of restoration between your relationship with you and your dad.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Because even for me, between me and my dad right now, I feel like I've had a restoration of my mindset of who is my dad.
Right.
And this is his character. And this is what he wants to do and his goals and things he's good at, things he's bad at, you know, like. But then I feel like there's another level of restoration that I haven't gotten yet with him of like being able to just openly talk about anything.
Right.
You know, like I wish you would just be honest with me.
Yeah.
Or I wish you would just be like, tell me why you struggle with X, Y, or Z.
Right.
You know, so like I feel like there's a constant, and it's hard because at that point now it involves 2 people to do it at the same time,
right,
and be willing to do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Versus the verse that you're, you know, the scripture that you're talking about doesn't really involve 2 people. He was just given direction, and it's your choice of whether or not you want to be restored or not.
Exactly.
You know,
that's 100% of it. So a lot of my growth and relationship with my mom and dad came from my own work and seeking and asking myself these questions of why do I respond this way?
Yeah.
Man, I remember when my daughter was about to be born and I was driving and I broke down in tears because I was terrified that like I would be like, I was like this monster because I'm like this bubbly guy, but then I have this so when I had that moment with my wife tells me, you know, you're actually smart, why do you talk stupid? I felt like I was like, all right, I'm only gonna reflect intelligence, but I also felt like I lost a bunch of edge. And so then I will have these like moments of like, hey, are you like punking me right now?
Yeah,
like, do we need to fight?
Yeah.
And it's and so I was just confused a lot. So with that as well, as far as like identity goes. So from age, I want to say 19 to about 24 was a lot of fine tuning and refining and searching and deep work mainly through faith, through the Bible, and through prayer, and then like discipleship from other men. Like I would just glean from other men, and then I would hear all these different stories. And I didn't have a wife and kid at the time, so I would kind of say like, yeah, like that's your problem. Like I wouldn't do that because I'm better than you than that. So there was like almost this pride of like, yeah, that was your story, but that's not going to be my experience.
Yeah, I see.
And so, but doing that work and realizing that it doesn't end. You know, now as a father, it's a different layer. Now as a father of two, it's a different layer. But that self-reflection, that self-seeking, that self desire to be healthy and whole allowed me to be able to say, you know what, that's dad and that's mom and that's who they are, and always continue giving an invitation of grace and an invitation to grow. So if I just say like, like dad's not gonna grow, and then so like what you think affects what you do so much. That's what I've learned in my experience. And so when I approach dad with, or if I approach mom, even mom with like the mindset of like that's who you are, then my actions flow. Versus if today I begin a new day. It's a book by Og Mandino. It's the greatest salesman of the greatest salesman. But he has this one phrase in there. It says, "Today I begin a new day." And so I just approach my mom and dad, and all relationships for that matter, like blank slated. Like this is, you and I have a really great relationship. But when I call you, if I reach out to you, I'm always curious of like where you at right now. Because it could have been I can be calling at a bad time. You can be calling me at a bad time, and it doesn't mean that what we've had is not valid. It's just like, okay, where you at right now? Let's do a temp check, and then give the invitation to let's grow from here. Because if all we were was just like joking artists, then we wouldn't have conversations like this. Because we're also fathers, we're also husbands, and like our conversation a couple of days ago is, we can have those conversations because we're men on a journey. We're human beings on a journey, and we're like working through it and learning and gleaning. So that's kind of how I've kind of evolved into now as like a husband, father, and even relationships with my parents is what, just blank slated. Where is it at right now? I'm gonna give 100% of what I am right now, and get the feedback like from you. Like, are you feeling that? Or
Yeah. And I think it's I find it almost annoying that one person can be. Sometimes I'm not that person. One person can want to start the clean slate. Everything's good. Let's do a temp check. But then as soon as you involve just another person,
right,
like it's all out of your control at that point. You know what I mean? And that, I feel like sometimes it's so frustrating of when I've put myself in a position to be ready to have a conversation. Like even with Stephanie, like sometimes like we'll have an argument and I'm like, hey, let's resolve this right now. I don't want to deal with this for another 20 minutes or the day or a week or whatever it might be.
Right.
Let's just hash it out. Oh, I did this. My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm all done. But guess what? She may need time to accept the apology or to work through it and realize like, dang, like, kind of still messed up or didn't do X, Y, or Z or made me feel upset or sad or hurt my feelings. You know what I mean? Like, so as soon as you involve another person, it's like, you have to be like super patient and consistently be willing to be open or even have open to the restoration. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just
so in that example, like that's you come with a blank slate, and then the second part of that is the feedback. Because if we come with our agenda versus a blank slate, that's where and I'm glad you're vulnerable to share that, because that's like, in theory it sounds good, like, oh, like I'm gonna just be the bigger person and squash it and apologize or take the trash out or do whatever
it is.
I'm gonna just solve it. But there's layers to to it. I don't know how to define it like in a social psychology type of way,
Sure.
but I know there's layers to. Like last night, my wife was sharing some information with me, and there's a verse that says, "Be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry," and it sounds really great in theory. It's like put that on your mantra, husband of the year, right? But in practice, last night there was so many times when she was talking, and my mind solved the problem like 50 times. I had 50 things to say, but I didn't share them, and I just listened, and I just like continued to ask questions, and trying to understand, because it went from in my mind that, well, this is what you need to do, to, well, are you trying to say that that's what I do? And then, well, here's really what the problem is. Like, it just went to like all these different questions that was putting us on a negative end. But then I just started to kind of like double down more on the listening, which is painfully hard. Painfully hard. So like in that moment when you come at someone, especially in marriage, like when there's a conflict, it's such a skill that you have to continually practice and work on. Of, I'm going to listen to understand versus listen to respond. And depending on which type of day, if it's, it's after 10 o'clock and I just got home from work type of day, and you're telling me another thing, or I'm on my way to a podcast in the morning, and like, this is what you want to drop on me. Yeah. It's just like, okay, hey, babe. Like, so like acting it out, scripted is like, hey, babe, I see that that's troubling you. Let's talk about that when I get back. Like, that's what that should sound like. Yeah. But oftentimes, that survivor, what do they call it, the reptilian brain, is just like that amygdala gets triggered, and you're just like, yo, like, what the
I ain't got time for this right now.
Right.
I don't want to deal with this right now.
Yeah. And then your mindset becomes like this is
annoying.
Serious.
Now
like,
now I'm upset.
This isn't even important.
I don't even know what you were talking about. I'm upset for you in this situation last night. Let's get our
So in that, it's it all starts with self. I was, it's Martin Luther King Day, and he has this book called Strength of Love, and he talks about how it's important that the person individually has to heal their mind or their own heart before they can even love someone else. Actually, let me just read.
Yeah, go for it. Pull out the quote.
It's pretty badass.
You want to hear a sound effect? MLK.
That made me think of I think it's like, was it T-Pain or something like that who had a song? I don't know, but it took me back to early 2000s.
Yep.
But it says
it probably was T-Pain.
One day we will learn that the heart can never be totally right when the head is totally wrong. One day we will learn that the heart can never be totally right when the head is totally wrong. So like mindset is huge in how we approach everything, like our parents, our children, and that's been the revelation. But then the work is continuous and is moment by moment. Yeah, like, I can quote a bunch of stuff and try to sound like husband of the year. Yeah, I think even sometimes like saying stuff like this, people can get this idea like, oh man, this guy's got it figured out. It's like, no, like I'm failing daily and moment by moment. It's just the realization of like, well, the feedback. Like, how long do I want to stay in this?
And I think too, like, granted, we don't have a million listeners because they're not even live yet. But I think if for anyone that ends up listening or watching this, I feel like something important to say is it is still okay though, and it's good to strive to not have a mistake every day. Because I don't think, I can be wrong, but I'm sure that there are plenty of days that you've had being a father and a husband and just Deon in general, where you didn't have a bad moment that day. Right. You know what I mean? So like, yes, I want people to understand, like, yeah, we still have our stuff that we got to work on, and there's still plenty of moments that we're not the best, but like the goal is just to be better each day. And
Right.
at some point, I would hope there's gonna be days where you don't mess up and you don't fail quote unquote as a husband, you know,
Right.
like where you and Misha had a fantastic day.
Right.
Nothing did go wrong. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
everyone communicated really well, you know, like, or sure, the kids had a rough day today, but Deon literally did the best that he could, and he had an A that day. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't want people to think like it's, or even I think I want you to know it's okay to be confident that you did have a good day.
Right.
That you are a great dad, that you are a great husband.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not like, sure, let's go back to the blank statement of we're not perfect.
Yeah.
But we're still trying. You know, like we're still trying to maybe not be perfect, but we're just trying to be the best that we can be.
Man, that's so important to illustrate and focus on, because I think the commonality is, let's talk about our junk and how we're working through it. And there's, I think, like, even just like hearing you say that, where my mind drifts to is, you know, well, why don't I speak more about what's like the good that's happening? Like I have way more good moments, and great moments than bad moments. For some reason, it's just, I think it's like a way to feel relatable. It's like, if I tell you how awesome my childhood and my life and my marriage is, maybe you'll feel small.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Versus, but then now I'm making a decision for you, instead of leading with like what's great, and then allowing the listener to go like, man, like, well, how did you discover that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, what do you do to help you be successful in life? Because when you're trying to be a business owner, and
people hire life coaches, business coaches all the time,
and you're asking those questions like, how do I make this thing successful?
Because they clearly are doing something right, and you're willing to pay to learn what they're doing right every day.
Exactly.
You know, so
yeah,
same concept of
that's
life.
a great reminder for myself, and I think all listeners.
Yeah.
Is, you know, tell the wins, brag on the wins, love the wins.
It's the difference between like confidence and cocky. You know, like even as I have one friend that will send me a text once every 6 months or something like that, specifically on the topic of like, oh, dude, like, I see you're a great dad, and I wish I could do more to do what you're doing. You know what I mean? And it's hard for me to take that compliment, because I know on the daily I am getting so pissed at my 3-year-old right now. Literally, there's probably not a single day where I'm not giving livid at Kai. He is pushing my buttons. So it's hard for me to see, you know, like they're overall. Yeah. I'm confident that, yes, I feel like I am a good dad. Yes, there are plenty of things that I can work on, but I feel like I am doing my best. So it's hard for me to take exactly what I'm telling you. You know what I'm saying? Like in the same concept of like, okay, it's okay to realize, hey, I am doing well. Right. I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm proud of the process or like the growth that I've been implementing each day. So
I think, and that's the value of like a coach, and if not a coach, like accountability partner, and the importance of community. Yeah, of like-minded people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, or aspiring to be the same thing. Because then when you're having a shitty day, someone who knows you and is close to you, that you've confided in, that you trusted, they can point out, so like, this might be heavy, but like, you're like crushing this here, like, and remind you of the good that you are doing. I think it's complex. I think it's a complex thing, like emotions, feelings, like mindset, how we see ourselves, how we act, how we show up, how others view us. Yeah. I think it's just part of it. Like my daughter this morning she took the dry erase marker, and she just woke up. she just ran out of the room and just woke up and was just like yelling. And I'm like, hey, babe, everyone's sleeping. And it's like 7 a.m. And she's just like, I'm ready for today.
Wired.
She just starts drawing on the fridge and drawing on
At least it's a dry erase.
Yeah. And so two things come to my mind. I'm like, hey, you shouldn't do that, because what if that wasn't dry erase? So let me teach you not to do that. But she's just having the time of her life. So
yeah,
the whole philosophy, tell the kids what they can do, not what they shouldn't do. And you try to implement these things, but sometimes it's just like, yo, stop that shit. You can't do that. But mindset, I think what people may see in us when they give us those kind of compliments is they see us fighting and staying in it.
Yeah.
And then having the more of the positive and the optimistic and or the desire to wanna be better or share.
Yeah.
Or what we even show on social media or in just a relationship. I think when people give us those compliments, they're not discounting that it's not hard. I think they've fallen short in one area or the other, or it's a growth moment for them, and they're just recognizing, like, man, like it's almost like their blessing is to praise you.
Yeah.
Because they're grateful to say, okay, it's possible.
Yeah.
So it's complicated. I think it's I don't think it's something that's quite understood. But it's something that I got from my dad.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, like, when I look back on now, it's like, I wish I was as tough as my dad. And it's like, I kind of know why my dad was talking like that.
Yeah.
You know, like, so sometimes I'm like envious of how my dad was able to hold a room and impact a room. And in that envious, I fail to realize how I impact a room.
Yeah.
When I come into a space, it's people are mostly happy to see me, and they're loose. And sometimes I will start asking the question of, like, are they being disrespectful, or are they joking? And should I even be in this room?
Yeah.
And so that's where my dad, it was very clear. Like, he knew who he was. He had this sense of self. If it was the wrong man, he was who he is. And that's something that I've been envious of my father. Like, how did you just right, wrong, whatever, not knowing anything? Like, he was 17 when I got here.
Dang.
15 when my sister got here.
Dang.
And my brother got here, he was like 19 or 20. So he had
age. He didn't care.
He had 3 kids.
He was having kids
at
that point. He's 15, have a kid. Might as well keep it going.
Right. So, like, I'm thinking about, like, 20-year-old me and the decisions that I made in my thinking process, 25-year-old me, 26-year-old, 33-year-old me.
Yeah.
And, like, what he was dealing with, I'm like,
You
but he had a sense of, he didn't feel like he needed to apologize for who he was.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing. And I was just like, to this day, I'm like, that's where I feel like I'm morphing into now, of like, nah, this is me. This is okay. I am loving. I am bubbly, but I am also rigid. But I don't need to communicate
the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like where the whole blank state comes from. It's like, I mean, and it's also like there's business relationships, personal relationships, friend relationships.
Yeah.
They're all, you always, speech coding is what they call it. You always like kind of change and adapt into the moment.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I feel like it's been like my superpower.
Yeah.
And I can just like read, this is where I am today. But I'm 100% authentic in each moment. I never feel like I'm being fake, but at the same time, that peace that my dad had, that resolve of like, nah, this is me, and I don't really care how you feel about that.
Yeah.
Can we take a bathroom break?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to Misha. I'm interested. How did you meet Misha, and how were you like, yo, I want her to be my wife?
Okay. Well, we met at 50G, which is like a common area. It's actually no longer there at Mount Sac, but it's where all the athletes were going to get training and in the gym where the PE area was.
Gotcha.
I was waiting for a ride.
Okay.
And she was waiting for a person or something like that. And so I'm just kind of, my boy he was getting treatment. We're in football season. He was getting treatment, and I'm just waiting for him to come back down. And then I see her, and I'm just like we're like in the same space, if you will. So like from like here to the kitchen. So I'm like, oh, what's up? Like, I haven't seen you yet. Like,
Yeah.
Like, who are you? And we started talking, and not even on some like trying to get at you stuff. It's just like
Just chatting.
like, what's up? Like, you're new here. Okay, where you from? All that good stuff. Oh, what sport you play? All right, soccer. Okay, cool. So then we're just having like a pretty solid conversation, and this was like the first time I'm talking to a girl, and like I don't want anything from her. I'm just like you're a person.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a frustration because when you're a football guy at Mount Sac, like the belief is that that's what your game is to
Who you getting with?
right,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like kind of like back to like the romantic thing. Like I just never got with that. Like and my dad kind of it's another lesson from my dad, right? He was like, I had an incident. He was like, you just can't be with anybody, and I was just like, oh shit! I thought you had a different response to that.
Yeah.
Thought you'd be proud of me.
Uh-huh.
I guess not. So yeah, we exchanged numbers and we just stayed in contact, and then like just did not like each other at all. Like could not stand to be around each other. She was just I thought she was a prude, very prudent and a prude. She kind of still is, but in a healthy way. Like that's what you want in a wife.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she had this way of like challenging your like ideas and thoughts or my ideas and thoughts and questioning, but then also kind of had this like I felt like an arrogance about her, and then vice versa. Like I had like the same thing. Like I don't even explain myself to you. Like why you asking about that? We just did not vibe at all. So then we stopped talking for like 3 to 4 months. And then she hits me up at the text like, hey, I just randomly thought about you. And I'm just like, of course, like.
Of course you've thought about me.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's usually it. Of course, that's what's supposed to happen. And then, and so she goes like, I was like, well, let's just go grab some dinner or something. I think she was still at the school or whatnot at Mount Sac.
Okay.
And so, yeah, let's just go grab something. So we went to BJ's Pizza.
You get a Pizookie?
We did get a Pizookie.
What flavor?
Chocolate chip, man. We'll just keep it simple.
The Oreo one is the
Oreo?
best one. Have you not had that one?
I haven't. I did the trio.
The next time you go on a date, it's going to be at BJ's, and you will get the trio, and one of them, at least one of them, needs to be the Oreo. It's going to change your life.
It may, and I don't know if that's for the good, but
it'll change your experience at BJ's. Maybe not your life.
I can get with that.
Okay, anyway, you go to BJ's.
You come in his house. You better have had an experience with the Oreos cookie BJ's.
Today's podcast is not sponsored by BJ's.
Let's cancel it right now. We're getting a Pacific right now. So we're sitting there. We're sharing a pizza, and we do get our chocolate chip Pizookie.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, sure. Basic. And I'm just like expressing to her like all the things I noticed about her. And so although we didn't really quite get along, I paid attention to her. And so I told her like all the things I noticed about her, how she did this, like her route, like how she handled certain things, how she studied, and she really liked that. She was just like, oh, like wow, like you actually like paid attention to me. And I was like, yeah, I do. Because I liked her, but I didn't like her. Like I wanted to like her, but I was just like, you are like an asshole, or some people use what they say in that movie, Baby Boy, unstable creature.
Oh my gosh,
that's what I felt like.
Yeah,
and so but at the end of the night, it was just like this realization of like, oh, there's something here. So then from then on, we started hanging out a lot more, and it's become more like in the context of like we're interested in each other. And then she like kind of like corners me like, so it's like 2 weeks now. She's just like, so what is this? I'm like, I guess we're together. and she goes like, okay.
Nice.
And then like that night she breaks up with me. Because like I was very rambunctious and I'm still pretty rambunctious, but she's married to it now.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like, I can't do this. Like, I guess like this is like a mistake. She had buyer's remorse. she was just like, I can't.
That same night.
Yeah, that same night out. And I'm just like, all right, well. And so we just kind of kept hanging out. I was like, all right, cool. Like, and that's something I think still bothers us to this day. I'm very like,
as nonchalant.
yeah, like, all right, well, I guess we're together, and I guess we're not together. So, you gonna pass?
You don't have to put a label up.
You gonna pass?
I'm still hungry.
Yeah, you gonna pass those cheeses or what? So then
we hanging out in 2 days. I'll see you.
Right, and that's exactly what happened. So like, I think like the weekend went by, or like the next day, we just kind of picked up right where we left off, and we never addressed the fact that we broken up. We just stayed together. And I thought that was always odd, but it really defined our relationship because so that was September 2011, and I went to college in Kansas January. So we got together knowing I was leaving. And we never had a conversation about like, are we doing long-term distance?
Yeah.
All that. We were just like,
it is what it is.
Like, I'm going to be here and you're going to be here.
Yeah.
And that was just such a blessing in that. The fact that we never had a conversation about it. And we hear so many young people or just couples talk about like, I can't do long distance. Like I would never be able to. And this is also where I was kind of becoming more of like a man of God and seeking God's approval and diving into his. So I was really like trying to change and transform for the better.
Gotcha.
So I had a different mindset. I was a little bit older too. I was like 22. So I was a little bit older. Most people graduate college at 22. I was going to transfer to my 4 year.
Most people do not graduate at 22. That's a lie.
Well, if they go right out of high school, that's supposed
I'm just saying most people, though, are graduating at 23 to 25.
It makes me feel good to say 22.
I'm just saying.
So I guess traditionally,
sure,
if you graduate high school,
sure,
this feels like the Oreo cookie.
Sure.
But yeah, we didn't talk about it, and it just was what it was.
Yeah.
And but what changed for me was it was that moment where she said like, you know, you're actually smart. Why do you talk stupid? That's where I started to go like. Like this, by this time, this was in that window of when we didn't like each other, and we're like hanging out, we're around each other, and we're having like a pretty serious conversation, or like some conversation that requires thought. Yeah. To where she goes like, "Oh, you're actually smart," and I'm like, "Yeah," and then she lays that on me, and then that kind of like changed for me, and then even though I didn't like really like her, like I didn't like her personality. She was always beautiful. She was an athlete. That was kind of always my thing too. Like she was an athlete, but then she wasn't. She was a woman that was she was prudent. Like she was very modest. She didn't she wasn't always like in little shorts and leggings, like booty out and stuff like that. She was always sure of herself. Like she didn't need me, and then I was the same. Like I don't need you. So like we didn't need each other. And so I think that's where a lot of our clashes, like we were not in the relationship looking for a puzzle piece to complete us. Yeah. So we were both to like two alphas, if you will, just kind of like, all right, cool. Like, and she's like, all right, cool. And then eventually I broke her down. Yeah. But just no, I'm
you know, I got her phone number. I'm gonna shoot her a text and be like, hey, here's the uncut.
Yeah, I'm definitely losing. I'm winning and losing at the same time.
For sure.
But it's so yeah, that's where things really kind of changed for me, and I started like pay attention and look at her differently. Like, wow, like she's asking me different things and making me self-reflect in a different way. And so I was like, okay, this woman's pretty dope. Yeah. And then she was a brilliant student. She was a brilliant student. I don't know if like she was academically like just like naturally smart, but like system wise, she was just disciplined. Like, you know, this is my routine. She packed lunches, she packed snacks every day. She didn't eat out. She didn't waste money. Like, if we spent money, till this day, if we spend money, it's a big deal. Like, you have to beg her to spend $1. But so I started paying attention to that. Like, okay, she's really conservative. She's so now I started to like visualize her like as a wife and a mother. Like, she's very modest. She's very studious, very organized. And I was like, you know what, this can be something. And she's beautiful, you know, and she's slender. Like, that was like my framework.
Yeah,
like, I like a slender woman because I'm like, well, after them kids, I want to love you still.
Yeah,
I'm
for real.
Shallow, but
yeah,
I guess I am.
No,
it was strategic.
Yeah,
I was very strategic. So then we got together, and that's what changed. And then went through college. Long distance. So like at the time, Skype was a thing, and so we would Skype every night. Bible studies every night. We would go to sleep on the phone every night. I would go out sometimes on Fridays and Saturday nights, and then even that was a learning curve because that's where our cultural differences started to show up. Like, what I thought was okay with dancing and partying, she had struggles with, and you know, just that gap really started to play a role of like, okay. So then it put on my heart. It was a good thing and a bad thing. Like, family and friends, when they would meet my wife, they would tell me like, "Don't mess that up. Like, she's beautiful. Don't mess it up." So it made me go like, "Hey, I'm pretty good dude too. Like, y'all telling me not to mess. She better not mess it up.
I'm here,
right?" But at the same time, like that was something I battled with after college. But now, at that time, what it made me go was like, I need to make her feel safe. One of my mentors, Austin Havens, he just passed away in December, 86 years old, and he was sharing me like, hey, women want to feel safe and secure, and so this is before he shared that with me, but this is what I was doing before he made it. He put words to what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I'm not gonna give her any doubt. You know, if she calls me, if she Skypes me, like, I'm always gonna answer. I'm just not gonna create any doubt.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm out with somebody and she calls me, like, I'm just gonna pick up the phone or call her right back if I don't hear the phone call. But I wasn't gonna, like I said, create any doubt. So that's what allowed us to, I think, help her to feel safe. And I never had a doubt with her at all. And same, like, she just didn't create any doubts. And so that's how we were able to power through long distance. Like, we were just open with communication. We were present. We were studying God's word together. We were growing as she was not a Christian. She didn't have a relationship with God like that. In an organized religion type of way.
Sure.
She just kind of was like, yeah, there is a God, and I'm not really sure, like, there's only one way to him. And I was just okay. So that was a lot of fights too.
Yeah. No, it's a definite topic of sensitivity.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've matured in how to engage in that. And again, going back to what we talked about earlier, just learning how to listen and being present. Okay, this is where you are. Let's move from there. You have questions. But that's the story of like how we started and how we persevered through it. And then once she graduated college, that in 2015, that the day after Christmas that year, I proposed.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when did you guys get married?
November 13, 2016.
I always have a tough time with the year.
Yeah.
I can remember the month and day, but the year I always struggle with.
Right.
Always. I'm like, we've been together 7 years, but we've known it. But then it's March, and then how do I math? And no.
Well, but that in our household, that's the pro and the con. I remember everything.
Stephanie's that way. Stephanie will remember. She'll remember like parents, step parents, aunts, uncles on my side's birthdays. Yeah. I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
What day? I don't remember this.
Yeah.
You said this? This is when this happened?
Right.
Yeah, no, I can't.
And I think it's probably dependent on the relationship, but like I remember like vivid details of things, and And that's what I shared with her that night at BJ's, was just like, hey, like the way you do that. And I don't remember what I said to her.
Yeah.
But at that moment, I was just like, yeah, like.
She took note of it and you recognized that you were good at it. Yeah.
And but then also that became like our problems is she would say things. I was like, well, no, babe, this is actually how it happened, and it was this, and I would like break down step by step.
I'm good about those things.
Yeah. So
at least I feel like I'm good at those things. The dates, not good. At conversation, I feel like I am good though at remembering how conversations form though.
Yeah.
But okay. What's your daughter's name again?
Selah.
Selah, and your son's name?
Miles.
Selah and Miles.
Selah Lynn Shorter.
Dang.
Miles Vincent Shorter.
Vincent. Any inspiration for their names?
Yeah. So Selah is from the book of Psalms, and it means pause and reflection of God's glory. So the psalmists, when they would write it, like after a couple stanzas, they would put a salah.
Oh, Saleh, right?
Selah.
Sel. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we pronounce it Selah. I think the Hebrew maybe Salah.
Okay.
But either one, our little black.
That's
girl
how you choose.
being
Yeah, that's how you choose to pronounce her name. Oh, yeah.
And we were gonna change it to, so that it can be like phonetically.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, but we were just like, nah, we'll keep it. So it's Selah. Lynn is my mother's middle name and her mother's first name.
Okay.
And then Shorter is yours truly.
Yep.
And then Miles, when we came up with Miles, we thought we would be having another girl. And so Misha was fixated on the name Mia, which means it's like my something special. And so we're like just playing with names. We don't know what the sex is yet, but we're playing with names. And I was like, Miles jumps into my head. I'm like, what do you think about Miles? And she's like, I like it. And so I just kind of like look it up, like, what does Miles mean? And so in Hebrew, Miles means it means who is like God. So it means the question, like who. It actually is, his name is a question, who is like God.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which became an interesting thing because, before I get into that, and Vincent is her maiden name.
Okay.
So that's from her dad. So and then from my dad. So we paid tribute to the women in our house with Selah, and then to our fathers through Miles.
Nice.
And then but Miles's name became, we thought it had a like nice ring to it. It was and then like the messaging, of course, but then his birth was that it posed a question of who was like God, because he was breached. He wasn't born breached, but he was breached throughout the whole part of the pregnancy.
Gotcha.
And we're like praying every day, like,
yeah,
like,
please
God,
flip.
Yeah, flip.
Please flip over.
And it comes to a point of realization, okay, he's not flipping. And Misha's like most women, terrified of the idea of having a C-section. And so we're trying to get more comfortable with that. And on the very last day before, I go to the park, and I meet this guy, and he's not my favorite guy. He's just a guy with his kid at the park, and he's speaking very like boisterous and arrogant, like a know-it-all. And he's like, "Oh man, like, nah, don't do the C-section, man." He's like 2 hours. He says that's 2 months of recovery when she's not going to be able to do anything. It's awful because his wife had a C-section. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, I only know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know. But I'm just like, hey, we'll just do whatever.
It's not like you can control the baby either, homeboy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like we know. Like we're just going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, we made our decision. So they have this thing called an ECV. And it's an acronym for some doctor term. Mm-hmm. And essentially what it is the doctor manually flips the
very
baby.
Painful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's and she was very transparent about that. Like it's not comfortable. And so they offer it at 39 weeks, and if it's not successful, then they go right into the C-section. And so my wife's like, you know what? We'll do it at 40 weeks because I think he's gonna flip in a week, and he doesn't. And so the morning of, we say, okay, we'll try the ECV. Now it's It's 50% chance at 39 weeks and a lot less at 40 weeks, just because of the size of the baby.
Gotcha.
And the space is smaller.
I see.
So we're praying and praying and praying. And then in our morning prayer group, so we're doing this 90-day challenge of prayer. This morning, before we were about to go in, one of my brothers, his wife, is listening to the call, listen to the prayer, and then she chimes in, and I'm just like, hey, can you pray over Misha? And so I run upstairs, because I take prayer in the car, run upstairs, and I'm like, hey, Misha, Rhonda's going to pray for you. And so she prays, and then we get to the hospital, and we say, hey, we want to try the ECV. At first, we ruled it out because of the pain. I was like, you know what, we'll just, and that's what the guy said. He was like, the pain of the ECV is going to be greater than, it was like 20 minutes of pain versus 2 months. And I didn't like this guy, but I was like, that just made sense to me. So I felt like he was really like an angel. Because I went home that night and was like, hey, babe, we should try this ECV. So then we try it, and it was successful, but it was like the doctor barely
did anything?
Yeah.
Nice.
So she does it, and then she's like, I don't think I got like a good grip. And then her other doctor that's with her is like, I think he turned. And so they look again, and he was head down. And
nice.
So that process between when we found out he was breached to when he wasn't flipping and continued breaching, and the idea of a C-section, and then what we believe and knew of the ECV and research, it's painful, uncomfortable, and then what actually happened. And then he was born that day, and the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck. And they kept us at the hospital because they had numbed her from the waist down, so her legs had to come to. And then while her legs are coming to, I think she just had to be able to use the bathroom and stuff on her own.
Yeah.
And then we were going to go home and just wait. So while we're in that process, his heart rate drops like twice.
Okay.
And so obviously we don't know. We're just like, oh, yeah, cool. Like, his heart rate dropped, like whatever. So then that leads to induction, because if his heart rate dropped, like they weren't going to let us leave, and it kept dropping. And then so now they're doing induction, and then so she's getting induced, and so these are like all the things that my wife does not want to do.
Yeah.
But then when he's born, we find out that the umbilical cord was twice wrapped around his neck. So it's like, if we would have went home that day, like we don't have monitors at home to be to understand that his heart rate's dropping. He would have just been suffocating.
Yeah.
With each contraction. And so his name, he who was like God, is like, and all that, how our real fears were and our concerns and what we tried to just rationalize in our brain. And then when he was born, we're like, yo, if for 2 months, if you couldn't even move, that would have been horrible.
Yeah.
Because it was hard with you having a vaginal birth. And so imagining like him with you also not being available. It was just,
yeah, for sure.
So his name has a lot of significance.
Yeah.
Both of our
That's a good story.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would want to put in this time capsule? Either a message to family, a friend, a random person that ends up watching this in 300 years from now.
Yeah. I'm. Well, thank you so much for having me, and the questions you asked really helped me to realize, who I've become and how I've arrived here.
Yeah.
And where I'm going, and so much of, just being like, the importance of gratitude is huge. Being grateful for what you focus on expands, and your mindset is important. And so, when I was a kid, in the way I thought, and the way that I looked at the lens that I looked at life, it's very different as an adult. And understanding that the way I looked at things as a kid, it was valid at that point, to me, to my limited knowledge. And so now being an adult and having the mindset to go, okay, that was an experience, but that's not the truth. And so one thing I would love to share with my kids is, as you go through life, you're gonna go through different ways, and when the way you view things is gonna be really accurate and valid until you have new knowledge and new information to expand your thinking, or even redirect your thinking, because you may have a fixated thought. So always have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and be open to new ways to look at something that you feel really sure about. I would even say, like, don't be so sure. Embrace it. Be honest of how you feel. Express how you really feel. But there's probably more to what's going on. And when I started to do my work on myself and my shortcomings, and looking at the patterns of my parents and what they've experienced, and even with my children now, and they're super small. They're like 2.5 and 3 months, so they don't have a whole lot of to give right now, outside of the fact that what we show them is more important than what we tell them. And when I look back at my parents, it's no knock on them, but what they showed me versus what they told me, there was some disconnect there. But even like in marriage, and so if you're in conflict with your spouse, with your kids, with your relationship with others, go through a series of questions of, like, okay, what am I experiencing? What am I feeling? How do I feel about this? Why do I feel this way? And go through your process of peeling away the onions, and then asking questions also to the person that you may be upset with, and listen to understand. So that would be like my thing. And then enjoy. I thought you brought a really good point about celebrating the wins and celebrating the victories, because a lot of what we talked about was navigating through challenges. But the great side about all of this is, I mean, I have a beautiful wife, a beautiful family. I have a great relationship with my mom and dad. And I have people that love me, and I show up every day comfortable being myself. Even when I'm questioning myself, I'm comfortable working through those questions, so that I can stand confidently and just continue to move forward. Continue to experience, continue to be present. And so don't do it alone. Yeah, don't do it alone. Be in community, stay in community, laugh as much as you can, and then be what you are unapologetically in the moments, because you are what someone needs. You are what someone's like looking forward to or been waiting for. You know, the timeliness of how things work, how people come into your life and in your life and out of your life, or new experiences. Just be obedient to that, and then show up and bring all of what you are. Like, bring it all. And then let them decide what they're gonna keep. But don't make decisions for other people. Let them tell you no. Let them tell you, tell me more. Let them tell you yes. Let other people make decisions for you.
Love it.
For themselves. Don't make the decision for them.
Love it, man. Well, thank you for being on my, I don't know, whatever name this podcast will end up becoming, but it's been fun. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.